Hey, so I just wanted to make a recording since I'm obviously not there. So I did an answer key for the review you're doing that you were supposed to do during the first half of me not being there. So let's just go over it real quick. If you did complete it, okay. So it's just some topics that I thought that were more important than others because I feel like that the topics that we talked about were fine. One of them being long division. So if I zoom in here and move this over here. So your topics that I talked about were long division synthetic, reading polynomials graphically, finding inverse, and some indifference of cubes. All right. So the first one's a long division. Your quotient should have been x squared plus x plus 3. I put this over here to show you to imply that you needed a placeholder, right? Because it goes from 2x squared to the constant. So you need a placeholder for the x term. Remove this. Sorry. If you notice in your review, most of it's blank. It's because I wanted you to fill it in. All right. So the dividend goes inside the division symbol. The divisor's over here. And this part here, you should have had x cubed minus 3x squared because x squared times x minus 3 gives you x cubed minus 3x squared. And then we subtract, we cancel out. And then negative 2 minus 3 becomes plus 3. The x squared stays the same, and the negative 2 plus 3 is just 1, so it's an invisible 1. Then I bring the placeholder down, like the regular long division problems. Now, what multiplies to x squared, right? So x times x gives me x squared, so that's why I put an x here for my second term for my quotient. X times x squared, x times negative 3 is minus 3x. Again, minus becomes plus 3, so we have a 3x over here. Bring down the negative 4. What multiplies to 3x? Well, it's just 3. For my last term of my quotient, 3 times x minus 3 is 3x minus 9. 3x minus 3x is 0, which is what I wanted. Negative 4 minus 9 is plus 9 is a positive 5, so I have a remainder for that one. The synthetic, I feel like I can move a little quicker for this one. Just write out all the coefficients. There's no placeholders for this one. It goes from the power of 3 to a constant. The divisor is x minus 3. So when you do synthetic, you would write a positive 3, right? The coefficients were 1, negative 2, negative 5, 6. Bring down the first coefficient. 3 times 1 is 3. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1. 3 times 1 is 3. Negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. 6 minus 6 is 0. Okay? 6 minus 6 is 0. So there's no remainder. Then these numbers here are my quotients, are my coefficients to my new quotient that starts with x squared because the dividend starts with x cubed. So it's 1x squared plus x minus 2 with no remainder. Okay. So that was the first page. The second page. Okay, so the second page had the reading the graphs graphically and finding inverse. Up here we had the graph. I wanted you to find the solutions. Where the solutions are wherever it's crossing or touching. So it's crossing at negative 4, so that's one answer. I follow the graph from left to right. It's touching at negative 2, so that's my other solution. And then it's also crossing at positive 2, so that's why one of my answers is here. So what would the degree be? Even, and would also be, and the leading coefficient would also be positive because both ends are pointing up. Okay, both ends are pointing up. And these are just some notations that you might need to look over for your test because these notations will be on your test. Okay. These notations are always here. It's these that change. It's these that change. Okay. The other one was no graph. It was just a factored form. Your solution should have been 0, negative 2, and positive 3. End behavior, add up all the exponents. 2 plus 1 plus 3 is 6. That's even. Leading coefficient is negative. So even negative, that's going to point down, down. For the notations, again, the left side will always have x to negative infinity, like this picture up here. And then, let me zoom in a little bit more, sorry. And then the n goes to negative infinity. The f of x goes to negative infinity because it's going down. And then over here on the right side, positive infinity for x, like here. and then f of x goes to negative infinity because it's pointing down, so it's down, down. Then I asked you to find the multiplicities. So you find the solutions first, 0, -2, and 3, which is you found already. The k's are your multiplicity, so 2, 1, 3. And then over here, I wanted you to find if it's crossing or touching. So it's at 0, it's just going to touch. At -2, it's crossing. And at 3, it's crossing as well. Okay. All right, for these two, I wanted you to find the inverse. For the third one, for the first one, for the third question, add 10 to both sides, then square root. You end up with square root of y plus 10 equals x. At that moment in time, you switch the variables. So the inverse is square root of x plus 10. The reason why we square rooted up here is because it's to cancel out the x squared. To cancel out the x squared. Okay. If you wanted to, you could have switched the variables in the beginning. If you wanted to, if that would have been easier for you, you would have ended up with the same answer anyways. Now this one over here, let me move my head. So for this one, you have to square both sides, not square root, square, because that's the opposite of square rooting. Okay, so over here it cancels out the square root, but I still have a square on the left side now. Over here I subtract 1, then I divide by 2. Now the x is by itself on the right side, and then I switch the variables, and then my inverse is x squared minus 1 divided by 2. Divided by 2. Okay. Okay, if you have any questions, you can ask me on Remind. I'll still look at that while I'm gone. The last page was factoring sum and difference of cubes. I think everyone was okay with this, so I'll probably move a little faster, but if you need help with it, just message me or ask your classmate with whoever you're sitting with. Let me put this over here. Okay, so the first one, the term that multiplies by itself 3 times was x, and then 4 for the 64, so we have 2 terms here. Multiply these 3 times. A is x, b is 4, and if you see here, the factor form was x plus 4, x squared minus 4x plus 16. Okay, again, a squared, that's x times x, that's why I have x squared there. 4 times 4 is b squared, so that's 16. Okay. For this one, we had x cubed minus 27, x times x times x gives me x cubed, so that's a. 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, so that's b. Plug them in, x minus 3 because it's minus, so I'm using this one, right? Because it has a minus in the problem. I'm using this formula up here, not the plus one, the minus one. So over here we have x minus 3, x squared plus 3x plus 9. Because 3 squared is 9, x squared is just x squared, right? Over here, these were a little tricky. I changed them up a little bit. I changed the variable. So here, a was 3y, because 3y times 3y times 3y gives me 27y cubed. Then the 64 you should already know by now because we've been using it a lot. So b was 4. And instead of using x's, I am using y's, right? So it's minus, so I'm using this formula up here, over here, with the minus, the difference of cubes. So this would have been 3y minus 4 times 9y squared plus 12y plus 16. Okay, 3y times 3y is 9y squared. 4 times 4 is 16. In the middle, I think we were okay with. I think you're comfortable with that one. Here I have another difference of cubes instead of sum. Okay, let's go over here. So over here, a was 4x because 4x times 4x times 4x is 64x cubed. 6 times 6 times 6 is 216. You probably had a hard time figuring that out, most likely, if you did do it. Okay, but just, check the numbers. If 2 times 2 times 2 doesn't work, try 3 times 3 times 3. If that doesn't work, should have tried 4 times 4 times 4, 5 times 5, and then you should have gotten 6 times 6 times 6 eventually. So then the factor form was 4x minus 6. Then it's 16x squared. 4x times 4x is 16x squared. 4x times 6 is 24x. It's plus. And then 6 times 6 is 36. So that's the review. Again, it's attached to Google Classroom, so are the pictures. So if you have any questions, let me know and remind. Apologies for not being there. Something important came up that I had to take care of. I have to be home for it. Message me for whatever reason, and you are testing on Friday. Okay, whether we're in the classroom or we're in the auditorium, you're testing. All right. Thanks. Have a good rest of your day.